Imagine ruling the most powerful empire on Earth, only to spend the afterlife locked inside a stone tomb, your body wrapped in linen, your organs sealed in jars, your chamber filled with treasures you would never touch again. Why would Egypt's mighty pharaohs choose such a strange fate? To them, mummification was not death. It was the ultimate key to immortality. We are about to step into one of ancient Egypt's greatest mysteries: why pharaohs were buried as mummies. What may seem like simple preservation was, in truth, a sacred path to eternal life. To understand this, we must first understand how the pharaohs saw themselves, not merely as rulers, not even as kings, but as living gods. In the eyes of their people, a pharaoh was the bridge between the mortal world and the divine. When he spoke, it was as if the gods themselves had spoken. When he ruled, he made divine order real, and when he died, the stakes were far higher than the death of a man. The fate of Egypt and the balance of the universe hung in the balance. A pharaoh was considered the son of Ra, the sun god, source of light and life. By ruling Egypt, the pharaoh maintained Ma'at, order, truth, and harmony. But what happened when a god-king died? For the Egyptians, the answer was simple. A pharaoh could not perish like ordinary men. Death was not the end. It was the beginning of transformation into a fully divine being, a god who would join the eternal cycle of the heavens. This is why mummification was essential. To decay was to lose the vessel of divinity. To crumble into dust was to abandon the cosmic role the pharaoh had been born to fulfill. His body had to endure, because through it, his soul could endure forever. The pharaoh's death was a passage from being a god among men to becoming one with the gods themselves. In this transformation, he was linked to Osiris, the god of death and resurrection. Just as Osiris had been killed, wrapped, and restored as lord of the underworld, the pharaoh would follow the same sacred journey. To become an Osiris was the destiny of every king. His wrapped body was not a corpse. It was a symbol of rebirth, a seed planted in the tomb that would bloom into eternal life. Every detail of the burial reflected this belief. Linen wrappings were not just bandages. They were layers of protection, prayers stitched into fabric, spells binding the body so it could be recognized by the soul. Golden masks were not decoration. They were divine identities, merging the king's features with those of the gods. Treasures were not material indulgences. They were tools for the journey: food for sustenance, weapons for defense, amulets for power, and miniature servants carved from stone to work in the fields of the afterlife. Everything was designed with one purpose: to grant immortality. But immortality was not merely a personal dream. The pharaoh's survival beyond death was vital to Egypt itself. If the king's soul could not endure, Egypt risked chaos. Without the god-king to intercede with the heavens, the sun might not rise, the Nile might not flood, and the very order of the cosmos could collapse. When a pharaoh died, his body was treated with rituals that spoke of eternity. Organs were carefully removed and preserved. Flesh was dried with natron salt until incorruptible. Layer upon layer of linen wrapped the body with precision. Protective amulets slipped between folds. Finally, the sarcophagus, a coffin of stone and gold, sealed the king's immortal body away from time. This was the path to eternity. Without it, the pharaoh's soul would wander powerless. With it, he became deathless. In life, the pharaoh ruled the Nile. In death, he sought to rule the stars. Immortality was his birthright, earned through rituals, preservation, and the sacred art of mummification. Their preserved bodies were anchors, holding spirits to eternity and ensuring they would rise again as gods. Yet, immortality was only part of the story. The journey did not end with the body's preservation. Beyond the tomb lay a vast and perilous realm, the afterlife. To reach eternal life, the pharaoh would travel through rivers of fire, battle serpents of chaos, and stand before the gods in judgment. Preservation of the body was only the first step in this long, dangerous voyage. The Egyptians saw death not as an end, but as a perilous journey. For a pharaoh, the underworld was a trial filled with hazards, gates guarded by fierce gods and rivers of flame. Survival demanded courage, magic, and divine favor. Every spell, amulet, and artifact buried with the king had a purpose. Linen protected the body. The Book of the Dead guided the soul. Shabti servants and treasures ensured he would never be powerless. Without these, Even a god king could be lost forever. The climax of this journey came in the hall of Ma'at, where the pharaoh's heart was weighed against the feather of truth. A pure heart meant eternal life. A heavy heart meant oblivion. Mummification was not merely preservation. It was the armor, the vessel, and the ticket to immortality itself. The process of mummification was a fusion of science, ritual, and divine magic. It began with purification, the body washed with sacred oils and resins to cleanse earthly impurities. Organs essential to life were removed, embalmed, and placed in canopic jars, each protected by guardian gods. The heart remained in the body, the ultimate tool for judgment in the hall of Ma'at. Layer by layer, the body was wrapped in linen, interspersed with amulets and charms inscribed with spells to guard against chaos and guide the pharaoh safely through the underworld. Each amulet had a purpose: scarabs for rebirth, eyes for protection, ankhs for life. The wrapping became a sacred armor, binding the physical and spiritual together. Priests recited incantations throughout, calling on the gods to witness and protect the transformation. The coffin itself was a vessel of immense symbolism. Painted, gilded, and carved with hieroglyphs, it was more than a container. It was a throne for the soul, a beacon for divine attention, and a shield against the dangers of the duat. Encased within, the pharaoh was ready to rise as a god in the afterlife, fully prepared and protected. The tomb, too, was deliberate and sacred. In the Old Kingdom, coffins lay deep within pyramids, surrounded by intricate passageways, hidden chambers, and false doors designed to protect both body and treasures. The pyramid was not merely a tomb, it was a cosmic ladder, guiding the ruler's soul from the mortal world to the heavens. By the New Kingdom, the focus shifted to hidden tombs carved into the cliffs of the Valley of the Kings. Walls adorned with magical texts and vivid scenes of the underworld guided the pharaoh through perilous trials toward eternal life. Before reaching these tombs, pharaohs were transported along the Nile on ceremonial boats, echoing the solar journey of Ra. Some coffins even rested upon small symbolic vessels within the tombs, continuing the sacred voyage even in death. The spells inscribed on the walls were not mere decoration. They were living words of power, meant to awaken the pharaoh's senses in the afterlife, to guide him past monsters, gates, and rivers of chaos. The Book of the Dead, placed beside him, was a literal instruction manual for navigating the underworld. It included over 200 spells, each designed to counter a different danger or unlock a hidden path. Some spells allowed the pharaoh to fly as a falcon, others to transform into a lotus, blending the divine and natural worlds to survive the journey. Even the tiniest detail mattered. Shopti figures, miniature servants carved from wood or stone, were buried to serve the pharaoh in the afterlife. They would plow the fields, fetch water, and tend the king's possessions so that his soul could focus on spiritual ascent rather than mundane tasks. Every jar, every amulet, every glyph had a role in ensuring the king's immortality. And when the pharaoh finally reached the hall of Ma'at, his heart was weighed on scales against the feather of truth. The gods looked on. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of wisdom, recorded the results. An uncorrupted heart meant eternal life among the stars. A heart tainted by earthly sin would be devoured by Ammit, the crocodile lion hippo demon. This was the ultimate test, the culmination of mummification, spells, and divine preparation. Only through careful preservation and sacred guidance could the king survive the judgment and ascend to immortality. The legacy of the pharaohs, their mummified bodies, hidden tombs, and priceless treasures continues to mesmerize us millennia later. Every ritual, artifact, and secret chamber tells a story of a civilization obsessed with immortality and the journey beyond death. It is a world of mystery, power, and devotion that still sparks wonder today. Every tomb, every pharaoh, every legend has a story waiting to be uncovered. The ancient Egyptians devoted their lives to ensuring that death was never the end, but the beginning of a godly, eternal existence. Through mummification, the pharaoh did not simply lie in the earth. He rose again, armed with divine protection, ready to traverse the underworld and ascend to immortality among the stars. If you enjoyed this journey into the afterlife and want to uncover more mysteries of history and ancient civilizations, please like and subscribe to Time Path.